to talk about making your brand magnetic to the target customer on the Impact Brand Doctor podcast with Rich Kozak. Check out these rich strategy nuggets that you can use right now. This is the Brand Doctor podcast, where we positively uplift possibilities for personal and business brands, and we give you straight talk that you can trust. You probably need some clarity in your brand, or maybe you feel stuck at the starting gate to the next level of your brand. In any case, you are welcome to bring your vision and your challenges right here to the Brand Doctor podcast. Today, we are lifting up the brand journey of Marilyn Love. She is the founder of the brand Just Say the Word, Reclaiming You, Reconnecting to God, author of the forthcoming series of books, Just a Pinch of Salt, Timeless Wisdom Moments that Flavor Your Life and Your Faith. And Marilyn is a public speaker to groups about the important things in life and about the importance of just saying the word. Marilyn, I know that many of our listeners' businesses and their lives will benefit from what they hear today on the show. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Rich. It's my pleasure to be here.
Marilyn, what is your vision of the impact you clearly see having on people when your brand is thriving?
Well, there are two very important statements in the name of my brand. One of them is reclaiming you. So what I see is people who have had any number of situations happen in their lives to where they may have lost themselves. I see them being able to reconnect themselves to the person that they once were, or even finding a clearer start for where they are now to move forward in the future. The other important phrase is reconnecting to God. And there are people who may have this huge pause in their lives. They may have attended church as a child. Maybe they had a grandparent that took them to Sunday school. And as they, grew older, they stopped going. And there's that missing piece in their lives. And that missing piece is for them to reconnect to the God that they met when they were in Sunday school, because whether they know it or not, that God is waiting for them. That God has a place in his heart for them that only they can fill by reconnecting with him.
Oh, Marilyn, thank you so much. That was beautifully answered. And you fulfill such a need, particularly in society today. I've got to ask you from a branding standpoint, and I sense that maybe you weren't raised in an environment where branding was talked about a lot. Did you struggle at all with the idea of a brand that is you and a brand that's kind of what you stand for? And is that an understatement or something?
Did I struggle? I did, yes. And you're correct. I was not raised in an environment where having a brand was talked about. And then when I became an adult, I was not in an environment where having a brand was talked about. It's only been within the past, 18 months that I have had branding as a vocabulary term that I'm familiar with. Yes, there was a struggle. I needed the process to slow down a bit because it was new territory for me. So yes, absolutely.
I do you mind if I tell the story of how you and I connected?
I don't mind. Go ahead.
So I get this call. Okay, here's just I get this, and there's a lesson in but here goes. So I get this call. Hey, I'm going to refer my friend to you. I told her she should write a book, and I know a guy. So I get this call from Marilyn. My friend said that I should write a book, and she knows somebody who publishes people's books. And I believe I remember this clearly. I said to Marilyn, who, bless her heart, was trusting me, and perhaps is a little brutal. And I said, you have two options. And I sensed that she was a woman who wanted to touch other people's lives. And so I took a risk, and I said, you have two options, Marilyn. One is, I've got a book, as nasty, as snarky as I could say it. And the other is, a book is a stake in the ground that moves a brand forward. So if this book is part of where you're supposed to be going, if this is a calling or the next step in your life, the higher level of who you are and why you're here, this book can be a stake in the ground that moves you into that opportunity to speak on radio shows, on podcasts, on television, to groups about those things that you feel are deeply important to you and that you believe it's your calling to share. Well, she didn't take the snarky one. How's that? So, right? And
Right, I did.
so here's the strategy nugget. And to listeners, it's a rich strategy nugget. It goes like this: whether it's a book, which is what it was in Marilyn's case, or maybe you have a webinar, or you have a podcast, or you have a signature speech, or you have a training, or a product, or a series of products, or those things are a stake in the ground that moves a brand forward. You think of them like that, they cease to be a hobby or a thing you did or a check mark, and they become a strategic element in the future that you create, where you are making an impact on people's lives. So here's the action item. Write this down. What do you clearly see your brand doing? And I mean doing. And it's probably you, all right, when you thrive. So your brand is thriving, you're thriving. What brings you joy? And what do you really want to do? Do you love to speak? Marilyn doesn't mind speaking. She's quite good with words. Writing is kind of fun for her. And speaking about what's in her heart is something she enjoys doing, I would say, to the right audience. And maybe we would all say that. So write down, picture, close your eyes, picture your brand thriving. You're thriving. The brand is enabling you to be abundant. What are you doing? Are you writing your 6th book? Do you have your own radio show? Are you teaching one person at a time? Do you talk to groups? Do you have a mastermind? Do you have a process? Are you creating products or ID? What are you doing that you really want to do and will bring you joy? Write those things down. That actually is step 1 of the 7 steps to impact-driven branding. And it becomes the first step in the roadmap. So, Marilyn, I know you're in the midst of preparing to launch your book series, Just a Pinch of Salt. Knowing the book will create opportunities for you to speak about the book and its messages. Today, knowing that's coming, what brand challenges do you feel? What's got your attention from a brand challenge standpoint?
I would say the main thing that has my attention is making sure that this book does not get lost in the pile with other Christian books. I don't want it to just end up on a shelf and overlooked in a bookstore, or I want the importance and relevance of the book to stand out, because it is different from any other Christian book. It's not your ordinary run-of-the-mill, thus saith the Lord Christian book. This is a book that is actually meant to touch people, meant to reconnect people, meant to draw people in a way that other books have not yet done. And I've confirmed that with the owners of numerous Christian bookstores who have said, yes, please write this book. We need this book in our store.
Wow, great research, homework, way to go. So listeners, I don't care if you're Christian or not. I mean, I do, but I don't, maybe it's nothing to do with your brand. Maybe you have something different. I want you to substitute, instead of Marilyn's words, to make this book stand out. I want you to substitute whatever you have to make this webinar stand, to make my brand stand out, to make the name of my entity stand out, to make my course stand out, to make, fill in the blank. Okay. Now, hopefully I've got your attention. If you thought this was irrelevant to you, it was not. Here's the clear, rich strategy nugget. Write this down. Clearly define the barrier. That's it. There is a barrier that if you do not, first you have to clearly define it. And here's the question. What barrier, if you do not overcome it, will prevent people from either seeing your whatever brand, book, course, you accepting it, engaging with it? What is the main barrier? Sometimes there's multiple ones, but there's always a main one, and you must clearly define it. Why? Because you must overcome it. So Marilyn has the challenge. How do we make sure that this book sitting in a Christian bookstore before Christmas, it doesn't just get lumped in and people go like, oh, you know what? Oh, that's all I need is another. I didn't read the last 4 I got. What makes it stand out? What makes people who pick it up not put it down, turn to the table of content, turn in and see there's QR codes in it that say, meet Marilyn's heart and touch your own heart? What compelling things about, in her case, her book, in your case, about your course, the name of your brand, your logo, whatever those first impression management moments are, the homepage above the fold on your website. Look, we all have what's called entry portal moments. It's that first time somebody touches our brand. Sometimes it's a testimonial. Are you making sure that you get the language and the testimonials from your clients that when people hear it, they go, oh, wait, I want that. Well, that's what I'm looking for. And overcome the barrier. So in her case, it's the perception of parity. Oh, it's just the same as those other ones. What if it didn't look the same? What if it wasn't shaped the same? What if it didn't have a cover that looked like a Christian book? What if it, stood out physically? What if the cover design did that for it? What if there's a story behind it? Did you ever buy a little teddy bear at a hospital store that has a story and you bought it because of the story? It was just a regular teddy bear. You read the story and you go, oh, yeah. Okay. So maybe it's the story behind it. How about the time of release? How about making it giftable in some special way? Here's one you didn't think of or not. Okay. Shifting the price sensitivity demand curve. What the heck was that about? So can I tell you a story?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, you and everybody else. Here we go. So a woman comes to me and she goes, you know what? I used to have this really big real estate firm and I was over it. So now I sew aprons. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, they have pockets, they have straps, they're adjustable. They cost me like $60 to make. And I'm struggling because I take them to these art shows and people want to pay me $40, but it cost me $60 to make the aprons. And to them, it was just an apron. We had this little discussion of shifting the price sensitivity demand curve to the right. Wait a minute, what? Do you remember, if all you who ever had an econ class, one day, and hopefully you were there, because if you skipped, you're not going to remember it. But anyway, here it comes. If you do things that enable you to charge a higher price, you can shift the curve to the right so you can keep raising the price and it won't matter until another point when then demand will drop off. So aprons sold one at a time at an art fair are different than aprons sold in packages of 50 aprons to a a nonprofit that's rewarding volunteers who help organize and help kids do art or help people take care of their pets or whatever, and they're buying them as a gift to those people, and they have a little plastic thing people can slide the picture of their own pet there, that they, or and you maybe even get them on a thing where for $3 a month they can get a new picture of their pet now that the pet's it's whatever. I'm seriously okay. First, you define the barrier, then you overcome it. The action is, what barrier must your brand overcome, or everybody loses? You lose, the people you could serve lose, and the world loses. So whether it's your brand itself or its website or any first impression management portal, any device or product or service that you offer, there it is. Marilyn, this has been a blessing. Everybody, in this episode of The Brand Doctor, we have lifted up the brand journey of Marilyn Love and her book series. You've gained insight on these things about Marilyn, on envisioning the impact you clearly have on people, and on writing down what you clearly see your brand doing. That's the first step. And on clearly defining the barrier so that you are sure that you're overcoming it. You'll get contact information for our guest today and all the show notes so you can take advantage of all that her brand has to offer. And even more information is available by emailing us directly at rich@richbrands.org. I want to remind you, the Brand Doctor podcast is dedicated to bring you strategies and actions to take your brand to its next level. So from our heart to yours, we encourage you to subscribe to the Brand Doctor podcast and check out other episodes for strategy nuggets and actions you can take right now. We'll speak with you again on our next episode. And remember, now is the time to define the brand you will become. Thank you, Marilyn.